Okay, so aside of the game that we have today, aside of the videos that I uploaded a couple minutes ago regarding to Kylian Mbappe and the latest information that we have from Jose Felix Diaz, claiming that Kylian Mbappe already has communicated his decision not to renew his contract with PSG, and Erling Haaland and all the stuff, there are still a bunch of names out there regarding to Real Madrid that I would like to speak about and share with you all to see what is your opinion about that, because there are names like Marco Asensio we have to talk about, and of course there are more names like Rafa Varane, because we still don't know what is going to happen. So that's why I'm going to make this longer video to cover all these topics that in my opinion has some answers in the air still. So I'm going to talk about, in the first place, Marco Asensio, and the reason for that is because he was supposed to be in the starting 11 today of Spain. As you know, Marco Asensio is playing for the national team of Spain in the Olympic Games, and everybody was thinking that he was going to be in the starting 11 today, but he didn't. He stayed on the bench against Australia, and this is pretty obviously kind of very bad news for Marco Asensio. I think I told you like 2 weeks ago when I first heard that Marco Asensio was going to play for Spain. It was a bad idea. It was a very poor choice, a very bad decision, just because if you are not 100% established in Real Madrid, because as you know, Marco Asensio doesn't have a spot in the lineup of Real Madrid, the worst thing you can do is go out and play for and spend like 20 days playing for the national team of your country just because you won't have the chance to fight for a spot in the Real Madrid starting 11. You know what I'm saying? So Marco Asensio is not the kind of undisputable player who will have for sure 100% a spot in the lineup of Real Madrid, but it's right the opposite. Nobody knows what is going to happen to Marco Asensio, so his decision about to go out and play for Spain, in my opinion, was a very bad decision, a very bad move. And now the problem is getting worse because he's not even playing in the lineup of Spain. So if he stays in the bench for more games, Carlo Ancelotti won't have the opportunity to assess the player and say, okay, this guy can play, this guy is ready for the starting 11, and things like that. And it's worse because you are not even in Madrid fighting for a spot in every single practice. You know what I'm saying? And there are a bunch of players in Madrid already who really want to fight for a place in the lineup, in the starting 11 of Real Madrid, who are going to be way ahead of Marco Asensio when he returned to Madrid. You know what I'm saying? So this was very bad move from Marco Asensio, and if I were him, of course, I would never fly to Tokyo and play for the national team of Spain, because that is the last thing you want to do if you really want to become more important in Real Madrid. So that was, in my opinion, a very bad move. Of course, I wish the best to Marco Asensio. Don't get me wrong, I'm not criticizing to Marco Asensio, but in my opinion, it was a very wrong move from his side, and now he will have to fight even double for getting a spot, not only in Real Madrid but also in Spain. So let's see what happens. And now let's move on and let's talk about the player who might leave very soon but still is in the training ground of Real Madrid. He had to return to Madrid a couple days ago. I'm talking about Rafa Varane, and apparently he and Carlo Ancelotti had a meeting to see how are they going to handle this kind of weird situation, because as you know, the player had an agreement, has actually an agreement with Manchester United to play there, to sign for the Red Devils for the next season, but apparently there's no still agreement between Real Madrid and Manchester United. So that's why Rafa Varane had to come back to Madrid and start the practices with the rest of the teammates. And of course, according to this information, Carlo Ancelotti and Rafa Varane had a meeting to see how are they going to deal with this weird, like I said, situation, because it is not very common. When a player wants to leave the team and of course the agreement is pretty close, it is weird, it is bad, it is not good, neither for the player nor for the team to have him still with the rest of the teammates when everybody knows that he will quit really soon. It is not good. So that's why Carlo Ancelotti and Rafa Varane were talking about that. And it is, the information that I have is pretty much that Rafa Varane will be professional. He will do whatever he has to do. Whatever has to be done, he will do it, because he still belongs to Real Madrid and he has to be professional according to his contract and things like that. But of course, it is not easy for him. It is not easy for Carlo Ancelotti, because he knows that he wants to leave right quick, because the first intention of Rafa Varane was go and fly directly to Manchester and be presented with the Red Devils by the end of the last week, but it didn't happen because there is no agreement still between Real Madrid and Manchester United. So it is bad. It is not good. It is awkward for the player, for the Ancelotti, for the rest of the teammates and things like that. And apparently they had to talk about that to see how are they going to handle this kind of uncomfortable or awkward situation. So that is what we have, man. I'm still convinced that Rafa Varane will play for Manchester United, and maybe the agreement will be announced really soon. But considering that Manchester United don't want to put more money on the table for the player, I don't think that Real Madrid is willing to lower even more the price of the center back. And so I don't know when it's going to happen, but I don't think that neither Real Madrid nor Manchester United are really interested in prolonging this kind of awkward situation for everybody. So let's see what happens. But Carlo Ancelotti and Rafa Varane were talking about that. So now let's move on and let's keep talking about more stuff. For example, in this case, we will be talking about the salary that Real Madrid is willing to put on the table to Goretzka for coming and signing for Los Blancos the next season. As you know, the Leon Goretzka deal has been sounding for about 3-4 days, and apparently the guy is ending his contract the next year with Bayern Munich, and he might not renew the contract with the German team. And of course, he might be interested in joining Real Madrid, or I would say that Real Madrid is really interested in signing the German player just because he's still a very good player, and the best news is that he would arrive for free, so we don't have to pay any kind of transfer fee or something like that. So that way we can put a higher salary for the player, and according to this information that I have here, that would be about 10 million per season, because that is exactly the number that he's asking to Bayern Munich to renew his contract with the German team. So if Bayern Munich is not willing to put that money on the table, then Real Madrid would match that offer and would be willing to sign the player for that kind of salary. That would be the same salary that, for example, a player like Luka Modric has in Real Madrid. So that is very good news. In my opinion, if Leon Goretzka comes to play in Madrid the next year, that'd be great, man, because he's still, he would be, by that time, he would be 28 years old, if I remember right. He would be 28 years old. So it is still a very good age to keep playing. The guy is completely in shape, is very fit, as you saw. In all these pictures right after the first lockdowns in 2020, he gained about 2 kilos, 5 pounds of pure muscle. So he's even now, stronger and more explosive guy, super fast guy. So in my opinion, this is a very good signing for Real Madrid, and I'm looking forward to see the German player in Real Madrid, because he fits that group of players from Bayern Munich who can provide to Real Madrid with a different bunch of stuff like explosiveness and speed and powerful, all these kind of adjectives that really describe the kind of player, the profile of Bayern Munich players we've been seeing for a while, for a couple years or something like that. So if you feed your team with these kind of players, man, it is great, because if we really need something in our team in Real Madrid, it is this profile of players for the next season to become more competitive and be ready to compete against teams like Chelsea, PSG, and Bayern Munich with significantly better players in terms of physical condition and things like that. So I'm so happy to hear that, man, and I'm looking forward to see Leon Goretzka playing for Real Madrid. So now let's move on and let's keep talking about another important player who, unlike all what the people were thinking about, I'm talking about Isco. I mean, all the people were thinking that this guy was going to have another chance in Real Madrid once Carlo Ancelotti take over the bench of Los Madridistas. But according to this information from Diario AS, nothing has changed for the future of Isco in Real Madrid, which means that if a very good offer comes through, Isco is still in the market, and Real Madrid would be willing to sell the player to any team who might be interested in the Spanish player. In my opinion, this is very good because although Ancelotti wants to give him another chance in Madrid and he still considers to Isco as one of the most important players that Real Madrid have, the board members have another completely different approach, and the majority opinion of the board members when it comes to Isco is that this player has to be sold to any other team if a good offer comes through. If there is a team interested in Isco then they will have to sit down on the table and say, okay, how much money you want for this guy, or what is the market price for Isco. And as you know, Milan right now has been the team most attached to Isco, but apparently there was a kind of disagreement in the salary because Isco wants to keep making about 7 million a year, and Milan is not willing to put that kind of money for Isco for the salary per season, because it's still a little bit high, a little bit pricey. So they will be okay signing Isco but for significantly less money, less salary for the Spanish players. So I don't know in reality what is going to happen to Isco because the guy is really ready to go and he's in a much better shape than in the past, but nobody knows what is in Ancelotti's mind. I mean, in my opinion, don't get me wrong, in my opinion, Carlo Ancelotti still considers Isco as one of the most important players in Real Madrid, and I don't think that the Italian coach wants to get rid of this player, but every single time, when it comes to Carlo Ancelotti, he will do whatever the board members want, right? And if the board members, Florentino Perez and others, say this guy has to be sold, he will be sold as long as we have a good offer for him. So I don't think that the future of Isco has changed at all in Real Madrid, and of course he is still on the market. So let's see what happens, man. But I don't think that Isco will stay for longer in Real Madrid. So let's see what happens. So now let me know your thoughts about that. Just comment in the section below, and of course hit the subscribe button to this channel. Stay tuned, and of course right after the game, let me remind you, right after the game I will be uploading another video with my my feelings, my opinion, my take on the game, and hopefully we can win. So now let me know your thoughts about that. Again, comment in the section below, and of course subscribe my channel, Real Madrid Hub.